here's an interesting idea is that like I'm sure when you get up to the Kenny Chesney level, I mean those guys are going to do some rehearsals because they want this to be absolutely perfect, and they have all day to do it too. You know, they don't have a million other jobs because they're even the side guys
they're
are
all
getting good
paid
money.
Really well, they got the cash to pay everybody.
Right, and so what I've noticed is, and I've talked to people about this a lot, is that one thing that has happened with I don't know what this was like in the 70s or 90s here in town, but I've noticed that some of these guys have bands, and I always use Can't You See as an example, a whole bunch of the Can't You Sees of the world, and then they, you know what I mean, all of these 4-chord, 5-chord rock tunes that everybody can just come in and all right, here we go, with no rehearsal, you know. Okay, Pride and Joy, all right, you know, just throwing in all these blues and 5-chord rock tunes. But I found that that's the entire scene now, though. And this is back to your question about the 5 bands thing. And I think everybody knows this, is we've got, and I'm joking, but we've got like 300 players for the same 30 bands in town. Or for example, maybe it's the other way, where we've got 30 players for 50 bands, you know, it's like we're all in 5 bands, you know, in town. But one thing that happened with my band when I was first coming into town is I just bit off way more than I could chew. I picked a bunch of monies, you know, Pink Floyd. I picked a bunch of songs in 7, a bunch of like prog rock tunes, and it was too hard. I picked 22 hard tunes and I needed to pick 11. These guys could handle it, but it was too many. And so when we had subs, it was a problem. You know, we had a sub come in and they could, I mean, I can't ask them to learn the set list in 2 days. And so, but the problem is everybody's in 5 bands, and so now all the bands are playing basically the Can't You Sees of the world, and nobody ever, like, nobody's ever doing like really, really hard stuff because nobody wants to practice. Well, and you know what I'm saying? What do you, is that accurate, do you think?
That's spot on, my brother. That's spot on.
So what do you think about that? Is that, and here's the moral question, is that good or bad for the scene? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm guilty of it myself because I'm telling they're wanting to learn. We're doing some old Robert Palmer stuff. And it's sounding good, but Kelly, we're doing this Brother Kane song. It's not hard, but I'm lazy. I'm old. Well, I want to do. So I'm already going. I'm that guy. I'm your kid. I'm going. Well, Clifford, but I like Fortunate Son and all this stuff. I've seen the dead. It's a cool song if you get, but it's not hard. Let's quit worrying about doing the Satriani and stuff. Let's learn, get a bunch under our belt. So if we do get a gig, we can go play. And famous words of, I think maybe Joe said it, or 1 gig's worth 20 rehearsals. Well, there's a saying to that. Well, a couple of gigs. That's why I try to tell these guys. You can sit in the basement. Dynasty. When we got together with the great joke, that was a cool. Talk about band guys that loved each other. Jimmy passed away. Connie, Joe moved back to Colorado. We knew it wasn't going to last, but it was a cool band. Delbert McClinton. Joe is that way. Joe's that guy. But we rehearsed in his garage with the great Clay Kirkland came. But about a month and a half, Joe booked a gig down at that Hobos, and everybody went, except for me. He goes, "We're playing." What do you mean? We got 40 songs. You can sing, I can sing, we're done. We got 3, let's go play. And then somebody's going, well, we're not quite ready. Well, we will be. And, that's what we started doing. And it did work, because it went off real good. Was that first gig with the new band. The first gig, but it rolled pretty good, And after that, we were cool.
Yeah, it's like I've talked about this in the show too. Is I think our stuff is Kansas City, I think, is a very jammy kind of a town, from what I understand, compared to like Nashville or some other towns that have a good music scene. That we have people sit in a lot, and we have this huge. I don't really want to talk about the jams, but we have a huge jam scene here that's kind of attended. It's not all the jams don't have 2 people at them.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but not all of them are good. But people go to them.
Yeah,
Musicians will show up to them and stuff. And so, and we have this sort of culture of throwing out the 4-chord tunes that we've never played together, but we just handle it and deal with it. Our town, I don't think, is very rehearsed, because none of us rehearse, right? We all show up and do, and so I think there's like good and, my sense is there's good and bad with that. There's fun about that because it's way more raw. There's a rawness to it, which is cool.
You gotta deliver or figure out something on the spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there, it's very improvisational, which is cool. But I found that it's tough because places like Nashville are much more tight, though. They're much more rehearsed. It's produced. And obviously they're dealing with bigger productions of things. They're dealing with lights, and they have money to throw at it, and so I'm struggling to wonder if it's good for the scene, because all of us sort of like money-wise have to be in multiple things, because then we just die because we don't have any money. So like I'm trying to figure out if you understand my question of this kind of chicken and egg problem of how can we fix this psychologically, is that we've just been forced into this because of club owners, and the scene, and the people aren't coming, so we have to be because we're only getting paid $100 a gig, or is it the musicians trying, and everything is revolving? Do you see my point?
It's kind of dilemma. The day of the that's why I'm kind of going back to, maybe for the first time I'm trying to get Joe and John, but they want to play, and that's cool, and so or the changes thing I'm doing, because like I say, we're rehearsing, and they're not in any hurry, but people used to like that band. I believe we will be playing a lot, if we want to. Mm-hmm. But when I told Chuck Clifford, he goes, "You're right, but we're not in a hurry." But Bush is going, "Well, he said, let's be picky about, maybe we shouldn't do perfect, let's do the old smoke on the people, so let's do stuff that people will like, whether we like it or not." Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get back, we're not doing disco, but, right. But the cool White Snake stuff, he had a point. The singer, Kelly's a great drummer too, mm-hmm. but he's also got that cool, high, singing, powerful voice. Let's be picky about when you and me sing. Mm-hmm. Let's do it. I know what you're trying to do, because you're doing I'm starting to do the Rob slam dunk it, let's go play, mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. well, because it's, there's a catch-22 to that. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'm rehearsing more than I ever have in my life. And not playing them. So that's also what happens. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that works out. You've been through that, but
yeah, I have. A couple of bands have been in rehearsed a lot, and but those bands that I was in, the players needed to, though.
Well, I mean,
no offense to them, but they needed to rehearse.
And I do too. I mean, it helped. I mean, but you gotta go and do but actually getting out and playing, the tune, and that's what Don, as soon as we knew it, we just glued it together. It's like playing with Paul or those guys. Just can you? Yeah, I can do that. Or if there's one you've done 100 times, like the Robin Trevor, I was like, oh yeah, I'm all over that. Or there'll be sometimes Killer, he knows everything. Him and there's guys that know everything. Mm-hmm. Literally know, like those guys in that what's his name? Scotty McBee, those cats. Those guys know. Or Brandon and Dan, they know everything. You can throw them up, and that's like the Sully Brothers. Yeah. We never played stuff. I mean, out there was like Crossfire, the old. I go, hey, Bill goes, why's that riff go here? Joe. Only thing he messed up was not that hard, but here's John. He goes, oh, I just heard it in my head. Did you ever hear it? No. There's guys like that. I mean, you throw them a ball and they catch it. Mm-hmm. You throw Nicky a ball, he catches it. Yeah. He just, and he has fun.
Right.
he's not going. And there's another thing. They're not going, oh man, let's not play that. And I've been that guy too.
Yeah.
And I apologize to everybody. No, I'm just saying I've been that. Oh man, you're making those frowns. But you know what?
What do you think about playing with those guys?
Which
the guys that are like that are just that are always well,
don't want to do the song.
They don't whatever attitude in general.
Don't want to do Freebird or don't want to do. I'm too. You're not too good to do. I'm kind of contradicting myself here. Gotta be careful. Walking nature, but I like playing. I'm sorry, I like playing Freebird and stuff. I did it with Damien and I had a blast because people like it. And that's one thing about him. He doesn't usually go. He'll have singing. Well, pick out something you know, because I pretty much know it. I couldn't play his Van Halen thing until he was disappointed. I can't do that. I mean, if Josh was here, I'd go.
Yeah.
He's got a brain of, it's like Paul. There's guys that, but they don't ever do that. They don't say as good as they are. No, I'm not gonna play it. That's but it's. It takes me a while to answer. I'm involved.
Yeah.
But
I hear you.
But then again, I'm that guy that does say I don't really care for the new rap country stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really care. If I'm old school, I could do without that. But once again, apparently it's a hit right now.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be here like Al Green or Alan Jackson.
Yeah. But right now, yeah.
But it's popular. It's been popular. It's been a number one song for a while. Will I play it? Yeah. I learned it. Yeah. See, I'm doing it. See, and that was natural.
Yeah.
I gotta go. You gotta learn those songs. My buddy, we need to learn those 5 songs. Oh. And I had that frown at my home before I got the gig.
So I'm still trying to think about this idea because you were talking about that. It's sort of like clockwork where you call a bunch of people and you're talking and and everybody's sort of half excited or excited, whatever, and then you decide to sort of rehearse or whatever. And then you're kind of getting them. We're feeling the whole thing out a little bit, but then there comes to be a time where we're like, you've either been doing some gigs or you're now starting to gig, and you're realizing that you have some Paul Greenleases in your band or whatever, and then you're needing them to sort of start committing, and then they just can't. You know what I mean? That's
a sad thing. That's a sad thing
so I'm trying to figure out in my head not to just complain about that, but how do we fix that? How do we, as the music scene, or not even fix the music scene, but what do I need to do as a band leader? Do I need to go and make a trade-off in my head and just realize that I'm going to go keep asking Paul Greenleases and whoever of the Pauls can show up and this is going to be a subby kind of band? Or do I go and not look for 9s and look for 6s that are pretty good, that can do this stuff, that can commit and reliable? Like, what do you think about that? Like, what's the solution there?
Well, because the guys, the people like we're talking about, my heroes, I'll call them, my younger blood, of course I'm always stroked when they can do it, and they're open to do a gig. Oh, my little kid. Oh, that's how I get. And that's a good thing. But also it's about the moment. If somebody like that honestly enjoys what you're doing, I can tell those guys are sincere. Paul is that was really good. I don't care if I get paid. I mean, that's how good he makes me feel. Right. He's such a good guy, and he's also sincere. If you bring something to the table of those men of that caliber, which you do, sometimes I do, and I feel, I don't get like, I'm the king of the mountain. Yeah. I just go, I feel good about what I did. And that's kind of corny, but I guess that's kind of like they say, it's all about the moment. Unfortunately, it's hard to keep you sometimes got to have a lesser maybe player that's gonna work with you and maybe put good songs together than trying to beg people to play with you.
True.
I mean, that's a catch-22.
Right. I mean, you have because if you start to get into the space where you can go demand like 800 from a bar, when you get into that kind of level, and you can hire the Pauls of the world, and these good guys, and you can sit there and give them a couple hundred easy because you're getting paid okay, then it's way easier, it's way easier because then they'll come do it, not easy, but they'll come do it, and I just like, my struggle is trying to get the band up to that level. That's what I was saying with the 1200s, the 800s, the 2000s, where Trample Underfoot was.
Right.
Kind of their level, right? I mean, they went overseas, but maybe just barely under them, where they've got some following. They're a good act. They can go to a couple festivals and play. They're not main headline, but they're at a festival getting their 812, whatever.
Everybody comes. They could go down to Knucklehead's probably tomorrow and they'd pack the place.
Yeah.
Just like they did for Christmas.
Samantha would be, she's a little bit bigger than what I'm talking about, but she would be at that level where people would come see her and she can hire Pauls and And so I'm just like trying to figure out what's the secret sauce in the sense of how you run the band. Is who do you hire? What kind of songs do you need to do? What's advertising looking like? Are we even gonna like be on the internet? You have some people that aren't even like, man, I don't even know how to work freaking Facebook. I'm like, well, what do you want from me? Like, you want to be this great band and you don't even know how the internet works. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's like you gotta be on there now. So like that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to get out of the show. Is get some answers for stuff like that and help all these guys that are stuck.
Everybody's got. It's hard to get everybody's. You book gigs or whatever. If they're good money, you tell everybody, man, invite your friends. Or some people do, some people don't. Mm-hmm. I always try to get people to come. I mean, I'm not saying they may be old people, but they come for the most part. They go see their old fart Hubert. It doesn't matter, but they come and they spend money. And if everybody would do that, but that's another thing. Those bands that are successful they probably got all those people advertised. They make, like, Pat's real good about the poster thing. She that helps. She, when you and me or whatever, Andy, do something, if she'd do it for me, and she would make a very appealing thing, and then she'd, why don't these guys share this? I don't know. It sounds trivial, but it does help. If everybody would, it's like kind of if every child would bring 3 friends, we'd have a party.
Sure.
That's like you being a leader of a band. You tell your guys, come on, guys, just invite your friends, invite your people you don't like. I don't know.
What do you think about having some of these bands that are playing? Let's say they're doing like 6 gigs in town this month, right? So every weekend they're playing somewhere, and then a couple extras, and then they're trying to hit up those same 50 people to come, once a week forever. You know what I mean? Eventually they're not gonna cut. Eventually, you know what I mean? And that's the other thing that I'm trying to like get some sort of like solution to, because that's what all of us do, and it's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
Yet we're sitting here going through the same motions, pretending this is gonna work.
Well,
do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know exactly what you're saying.
So it's dumb. We're doing this dumb thing, and we keep doing it.
There's a time when like Gene always started saying, the day of the house bands are over. Unfortunately, there's a time, man, when me and him and Nick's father, everybody, we'd go play somewhere, and the Sully brothers would sit down. Matter of fact, years ago, I was down in Armadale. It was one of the better 10th in Kansas now. I played Earl's, Tennessee with Donnie Millsap, Andy, and Greg Worrell's little brother. And it wasn't that the band was that great. And we were drinking all the time and partying. Guess what? Everybody I played some original song. I'm going to play that little song, play that for you. Bikers would come religiously. The place would be packed. So even when the band stunk, Earl would go, "You sound like Led Zeppelin to me." You know, the cash register, you know, end of story. And so much for, you know, or you'd have a really good accurate polishing. That's my point. You really want, and you do want it good, like the thing I'm doing, Changes or Day or whatever. I think Joe Stilley's the one, excuse me, Joe. I think he said, "Well, you know, one gig's worth 20 rehearsals." I mean, in a way, it is, because you get out. I know, because you're on the spot. You have to do the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Whether so you boo boo. You fix it. You won't boo boo next time. Because I know going in Clifford's garage, we're doing the same. We'll get it next week. That's what I'm going. No, we're going to learn Sweet Home Alabama. We're going to play some damn gigs and get you. And then we're going to do that song. I don't care if you hack it up or not, because, or you'll do the homework. You'll do the homework and learn the song. How about this one?
They won't. Yeah.
And they'll go, "We're not ready to play that." But when are we going to play it? That's another flip side of the coin.
That's interesting. Because I've always had an argument with anybody who's been in the practice room for many hours, and then they come out and everybody says, "Oh, we don't need to practice." We're like, okay, you know, we're like, all right, you can think that, you know, like, you know, all of the Yo-Yo Ma's of the world, and Yo-Yo Ma looks at you, you know what I mean? Like how about Joe Satriani and what's his face? You just said
Steve Vai.
Steve Vai, and Steve Vai, you know, everybody's like, "Steve Vai, we don't need to practice in the practice room, right?" He's like, "Okay." You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you're doing that not as a band, right? You're doing that as a kid and all that. But he's like, "I don't need to go practice." And we're like, "Yeah, okay." You can keep thinking that, you know, but you know, you don't get to be where I'm doing this without sitting with a billion scales and stuff, you know. So
the great Josh, my friend, he says this. He gets really irritated with me because I don't. He goes, you need to. He wants me to do it perfect, and he can do it perfect, and he's got a point. He said, "You think if you think Joe Satriani doesn't practice, he does. Joe Satriani is constantly playing. Mm-hmm. So is Vi." Mm-hmm. He said, "You think those guys are that good because they just do what you do and sit down for a month and go, yeah, I know, I'm good enough." Or he's got a point. Yeah. In other words, that kid's he's constantly like this, constantly. Yeah. And when I was younger, I did that too. And I was just, you know, they had to pull it out of my hands, so it was annoying. Mm-hmm. Stop. Mm-hmm. Stop. We're leaving. Well, we got to go here. Well, back your, you know, I mean, that was when I was a child.
Yeah, sure.
But he's right, Dick. He said, guys like that don't become that way from drinking beer and doing drugs or whatever. You know, all that garbage you heard about. Hendrix was shot stuff in his head, and that's how he played good. I go, he was a protege. He was a magical man. He was an innovator. You know, Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen was a probably constantly, maybe he partied, but he was constantly, that guy was a genius. Right. He was a new Hendrix. He was they were kind of a new American Zeppelin to me, if you will. I mean, you know, they were, man, people like that don't just, I bet they're all doing as we speak.
Right.
I bet.
But you said something really interesting about the practicing, because you were saying that there's, in the practice room, we can get it next week, right? And so there's a sense of urgency at a gig, right? And everybody else is like, well, we'll get it eventually, you know. But a gig, you're like just forced to. Even if you mess up, that's fine. But you're still like, there's something riding on this. In the practice room, there's nothing happened yet, right? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you're implying, right?
You just go. Yeah. I said, wait a minute now. And Jackie, the drummer, he's really good. He goes, wait a minute now. I got to drive for Hughes. And y'all made this. Now, some of us did our homework. I said, I don't care if anybody, let's do it now. Let's work on the song now. I don't care. Well, we don't know. I know we don't know. Listen to it. Here, let's at least try to crudely stumble through it. Stumble through it again.
You're talking about at the gig or at a practice?
At a practice,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, to go, okay, it's like, you know, like I say, Clifford, show me that, I'll follow you, you teach it to me right here now. Otherwise, we're gonna keep going, let's get it next week, let's get it. And next week never comes.
You're right, yeah. I hear that.
And I'm not talking, I'm guilty of it too. You know, I'll go, well, I'll get it.
Right. Tell me